The first body I catalogued still had a pulse. I know how that sounds. Dead things don't have pulses. But I pressed 2 fingers against that leathered throat in the doctor's cellar. Skin like a dried apricot, cold as a coin, and something underneath it moved. Once, a slow, deliberate flutter, like it had been waiting a very long time for someone to touch it. I told myself it was gas. Old bodies settle. That's what I wrote in my notes, in neat little letters, because I was a professional, and professionals do not run screaming out of basements. I should have run. My job was simple. A university had inherited a collection, 40 preserved bodies from a mountain village, left behind by a German doctor who died over a century ago. Somebody had to catalogue them before they went to a museum. Somebody nobody would miss for 2 weeks. That was me. The village sat at the top of a ridge road so narrow the driver wouldn't take me past the last bend. He left me with my bags in the fog and turned around without a word. The air up there was thin and wet and smelled like cold stone and something sweeter underneath. Formaldehyde, I thought. Old preservative. I was almost right. A woman met me at the doctor's house. She said her name was Odila, that her family had kept the place for generations, that she'd show me everything. She was maybe 70, straight-backed, careful. She wore thin gray gloves, indoors, in summer. "My hands get cold," she said, when she saw me looking. "The mountain does that." I believed her. Of course, I believed her. It was cold on the mountain. She led me down. The cellar ran deeper than the house, shelves and shelves of the dead. Each one dry and dark and perfect. Faces calm, hands folded. Not rotted, not skeletons, preserved. The doctor's famous fluid had turned flesh into something between leather and marble. I'd read the papers. I'd seen the photographs. The photographs did not prepare me for the way they seemed to be sleeping. That was the first night I found the pulse, the flutter under the skin. And that was the night I opened the doctor's ledger and started counting names. The village had 40 bodies in the cellar. The ledger listed 211 patients, and beside every single name, in the same brown ink, the same word, cured. 211 cured, 40 bodies. So, where were the other 171? I asked Odila the next morning. I tried to make it sound like small talk. "The doctor had so many patients," I said. "What happened to the ones who got better?" She smiled at me over her coffee. Her teeth were very white. "They stayed," she said. "Nobody who comes to the mountain wants to leave it." I laughed because I thought it was a joke about the view. She didn't laugh back. There was a clinic behind the house, a low stone building the university's paperwork hadn't mentioned. Odila said it was empty, locked for 100 years. But every night, from my little window, I could see a lamp burning inside it, warm and yellow and steady. I told myself the village kept it lit for the tourists. A little bit of legend, a little bit of theater. Ridge towns do that. They sell the ghost. They keep the lamp on. I told myself a lot of things that week. By the 5th day, I'd catalogued 30 of the 40 bodies, and I'd started to notice how warm the cellar was near the back shelves. Not cold, warm, like a room somebody had just left. And the bodies back there, the flutter wasn't once anymore. When I stood still and held my breath, I could feel it in the air, a rhythm. 40 chests, rising and falling so slowly you'd need a whole minute to catch one breath. They were breathing, slowly, patiently, wrongly, but breathing. I should have paid more attention to what the doctor's fluid was actually for. I'd assumed it preserved the dead. I hadn't stopped to ask what it did to the living. That night I couldn't sleep, so I went back to the ledger to copy the names, and I found a page I hadn't seen. A fresh page, the ink still wet enough to smear under my thumb. Today's date, a new patient, admitted this morning. The name was mine, and beside it, in that same brown ink, one word not finished yet, just the first 3 letters, Cur. I went to the clinic. I don't fully know why. The lamp, I think. If I could prove the lamp was just a bulb on a timer, then the ledger was a trick too, and Odila was just a strange old woman, and I could drive down the mountain in the morning and laugh about all of it. I needed the lamp to be a lie. The door wasn't locked. It hadn't been locked in 100 years. Inside, the clinic was clean, warm, a kettle somewhere, ticking as it cooled, instruments laid out on a cloth, bright, oiled, used, and in the chair by the lamp, facing the door like he'd been expecting me, sat the doctor. I recognized him from the one portrait in the university file. The same long face, the same steel spectacles, except the portrait was from 130 years ago, and the man in the chair had my catalogue notes open on his knee, and he was reading them. His eyes moved down the page, dry lips shaping each word, skin like a dried apricot, cold as a coin. He was his own last patient. He'd cured himself first. And he'd never stopped keeping office hours. Odila came in behind me. She'd taken off her gloves. In the lamplight, her hands were beautiful and grey and perfectly, permanently smooth. The hands of someone who had been cured a very long time ago and had spent a century learning to pour coffee like the living. "You've gone cold," she said gently. She touched my wrist. "It always starts in the hands." I looked down. My fingers, the 2 I'd pressed to that first throat, 5 days ag, were grey to the knuckle. I hadn't noticed. You don't notice. That's the mercy of it. The fluid doesn't hurt. It just makes the going away slow enough that you stop minding. I opened my mouth to scream and found I could only do it very, very slowly. They carried me down to the cellar. There was a space on the back shelf, warm from the others, and they folded my hands the way the dead are supposed to fold them, and someone finished the word in the ledger in wet brown ink. Cured. I understand it now. In the long dark, with all the time in the world to understand things, the doctor never lost a patient. Not one. 211 people climbed his mountain sick and frightened, and not a single one of them died because he would not allow death in his village. He simply stopped us, each of us, 1 careful degree above the grave. The 40 bodies the university wanted were only the ones on display. The rest of us are the walls, the caretakers, the woman who pours the coffee, the lamp that never goes out. We are all still his patients. We are all still being cured. Sometimes, now, a new person comes down into the cellar with a notebook and neat little letters and presses 2 fingers to my throat, and I do the only thing I still can. I let them feel my pulse, once, slow, so they'll write it down, and stay for the night, and start to go cold in the hands, and never, ever have to be afraid of dying on this mountain. Nobody dies up here. That was always the promise.